The Thundercats team grows by one with a new addition, and we're going to talk about it right here in our review of Thundercats number 2 from Dynamite Comics. See you in 3. And welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Thundercats number 2 from Dynamite Comics. And in this issue, the Thunderian family increases by 1 when they find a captive aboard the mutant ship. Before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell for notification. Your attention is greatly appreciated, and make sure you stay tuned to the end for the final score. Let's talk about the credits. Thundercats number 2 is written by Declan Shalvey, art by Drew Moss, colors by Chiara Di Francia and Martina Pignadoli. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And letters by Jeff Eckelberry. The main cover, cover A, is by David Nakayama, and it looks fantastic. Let's talk about what happened in the previous issue before we talk about what happened in this issue. So we catch up with the Thundercats, very consistent with the original cartoon series, where you have the ship loaded with Thunderians desperately trying to get away from a mutant attacker ship led up by Slithe, who is the reptilian leader of the mutants aboard the attacking ship. They crash land on this planet, which has been dubbed Third Earth, not particularly original, but it makes perfect sense. They try to figure out how to make sure they have a place to live and try to set up camp and do all the things that you expect in a very Swiss Family Robinson inspired type of story. In the course of their travels, what we learn, Jaga is killed, but Lionel's deep space hibernation capsule is damaged. So when they crash on the planet known as Third Earth, Lion-O still has the mind and the experience of the boy he was when they left Thundera, but his body is now grown into a full-size man, which leads to all kinds of internal conflicts and struggles among the group. Meanwhile, Slithe and his band of mutants land on Third Earth. They form an attack party, and then there is a battle in the middle of a field. In the course of that battle, strangely enough, the Sword of Omens, which is what you would call, I guess, the totem or the symbol of leadership and power among the Thunderians, is destroyed, which is the big twist, which you didn't see in the original cartoon. That didn't happen in the original. So this is a new development for what Declan Shalvey is writing for this reinterpretation of the original series. That's what happened in the last issue. And we sort of left off there where the Slithe was eventually defeated, but at the cost of the destruction of the Sword of Omens, which is a big deal. Now we pick up in this issue. Lion-O is still trying to kind of come to terms with the fact that he's a leader, but not everybody accepts him as leader in the same way that he remembers, because he feels like he's a grown man because he's in a grown man's body, but his mind and his attitude and his maturity level and his emotional stability level is still that of a boy. So even though he wants to be the leader and he believes himself the leader, and he sort of shows that almost an level of arrogance that comes along with being a leader, the rest of the group hasn't quite accepted him in that token yet. Plus, he's interacting differently, which may or may not be part of his body growing up and now affecting his mind and his attitudes and his behavior. That's still trying to sort itself out. Meanwhile, he's still coming to grips with the fact that the Sword of Omens, which is the symbol that has been bequeathed to him as the Lord of the Thundercats, has now been broken. The eye is intact, but the sword is destroyed. Elsewhere, the Slithe and the mutants are traveling along, trying to find a new base of operations. What are they trying to do? Trying to figure out how they're going to regroup and lick their wounds, so to speak, after the battle, which they lost. And Slithe is privately trying to make sure that nobody knows how badly he was injured, because within the mutant culture, if they find out that the leader is injured, they see that as weakness. They will attack him and try to instill a new leader in his place. So you have all that drama going on. While all this is happening, the rest of the Thundercats decide to go to the mutant ship that has crash landed on Third Earth. Now that Slithe and the mutants have abandoned it, they're looking for spare parts, things that they could use to repair their own ship. And in the course of investigating the ship, they find another Thunderian, a cat who's knocked out and is trapped in a holding cell in the back. They free her, although she's still unconscious, and they take her back to base camp. When they wake her up, her name is, this is a brand new character to the Thundercats, not something that's been seen before. Her name is Calica, so she looks like a calico cat. Very original, but that's sort of the way the Thundercats roll anyway. And she declares that she was the daughter of a farmer, that she was taken hostage by the mutants just in the course of farming her land along with her family, and that they experimented on her, and they were torturing her and questioning her and doing all kinds of tests on her, I guess to figure out how Thundercats tick. And that's where we left off. And now she's along with the Thundercats, and she's given the bad news that Thundera has now been destroyed, and they try to take her in as a new member of the team. Lion-O, possibly smitten, has decided, okay, she's going to be one of us, and we got to treat her as one of our own. Tigra and Panthro and the rest think her story is a little too neat, a little too convenient, and it could possibly be some kind of mutant trap, or some kind of ploy to kind of get into their good graces. So they're watching her, but they're not quite sure that she belongs just yet until they can figure out what are the details of her story and whether or not she's telling the truth. And that's sort of where we end it, when we figure out that maybe Calica is not quite kosher, and she is under the influence of some dark presence who is yet to be revealed to the Thundercats, who we'll find out later. Anyway, that's where the issue ends. That there's a new member of the team. Her story may or may not check out, and it appears she's under the influence of some dark force or dark figure in the background. If you know Thundercats lore, you can kind of guess who that is already, although we can't say for sure exactly what's going on with her, but there we have it. What did we like? Well, was there anything unique or special or different about that? No, this is a pretty standard, straightforward Thundercats story. No big twists or turns other than the discovery of this new Thundercats character who was created specifically for the series. But this is a straightforward, standard Thundercats issue from start to finish. What do we like about Thundercats number 2? This story is all about the layers of drama. There's interpersonal conflict between Panthro and Lion-O, because now they're butting heads about Lion-O's role and whether or not he is truly ready to assume leadership, and how much he's pushing on Panthro to accept this new person who they know nothing about. So there's a security risk there. There's conflict between Slithe and the rest of his men because he's injured, but he doesn't want to show weakness, and they don't know where they are, and they have to figure out how to survive on this alien planet without their ship. And then there's all kinds of potential problems swirling in the background with a dark figure. If you know the Thundercats, you know the lore. It's Mumra. Mumra's hovering in the background as a dark force, and there's some kind of weird connection, or at least an acknowledgement of knowing each other between Mumra and the spirit of Jaga. We don't know how they know each other. We don't know why they have some kind of connection, and we don't know how that connection is a positive or a negative, or what that means for the Thundercats going forward. So there's all kinds of pockets of drama that are spread out all over the place. Each one of them have potential and interesting things going on, and it certainly keeps you on your toes. There's nothing that's predictable about where this series is headed right now, and that's a good thing. You don't want to be... you don't want to see where the story is going from a mile away. You want to know that every issue potentially has a new development, and this one feels like where it's headed is uncharted territory. It feels familiar because of the characters and the setup, but where it's headed next is still pretty much a surprise, and that's a good thing. What didn't we like about the issue? The pacing is a little, I won't say slow. It's definitely a leisurely pace. Declan Shalvey is kind of taking you through the paces, developing the characters, and giving each pocket of drama room to breathe and grow. But there are no big pops. There are no big wow moments. There's nothing that grabs you by the throat and says, "Pay attention to me. You've got to read this. This is amazing stuff." You don't get that wow factor coming out of this issue. It's good. It's definitely unpredictable, and you see that it's headed in a certain direction, but with plenty of room for twists and turns. And the introduction of Calico is certainly new, but there's no wow factor. I'm looking for the pop. I'm looking for the bang. I'm looking for something that's going to say, you must read this. And right now, don't quite have that just yet. It's okay. It doesn't blow me away. And that's sort of the difference. I hate to draw comparisons, but we're talking about 80s reinvigoration of 80s properties, you've got the Thundercats, and then say compare that to the Transformers over at Image. They're almost not even on the same level. The Transformers at Image are well above this, and that's not to downplay what they're doing here with Dynamite, but that's so when you've got the 180s property that's being reinvigorated and it just like amazes you, and then you have this which is good but not fantastic. You're not wowed by it, and that's what we're looking for. We don't quite have that yet. Declan Shelby can get there. The story might get you there, but right now the pace is leisurely. The action and energy is not quite brisk and is not quite pulling you along. Could get there, but it's taking its time to build up, and so hopefully we'll get there soon. But right now it's more of a sedate issue in setting things up, and so hopefully we'll get some more bangers coming up pretty soon. Let's talk about the art from Drew Moss. It's okay. Drew Moss is giving you the characters. They look familiar. There are some tweaks here and there in the costume designs and some of the particulars of the face. For example, like Tigra has this sort of mustache thing going on that works and it suits his character. I think it's a good upgrade. But overall, it's okay. The line work is not super detailed, and the figure work is a little blocky. Not too bad, but a little bit blocky. Generally speaking, it's good art. Again, like the writing, it's not blowing me away, and that's what we're looking for. It's not bad, but it's not next level, and that's what we're looking for. Final thoughts. What do we think about Thundercats number 2 from Dynamite Comics? Good drama, lots of drama. Good developments in the fact that the introduction of Calica and the plot developments are not familiar, and it looks like the story can go in a million different directions and you don't know what's going to happen next, which is good. And the overall art is solid. But on the downside, we're looking for a little bit more intensity. We're looking for more not necessarily action, but just like things that are going to wow you, and we don't quite have that yet. But it's good. Overall, it's good. Therefore, we're going to give, for a final score, we're going to give Thundercats number 2 from Dynamite Comics a solid 8 out of 10. Therefore, should you pick this up? Yes, you should pick this up, but just temper your expectations and you're going to be in good shape. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please stay tuned to the outro for the next one.